was the spring of 2004, and I was a senior at Augustana. I was in new product development class, and the night before a big exam, my boyfriend, now husband's family, experienced an emergency. It was one of those drop what you're doing and be with family type of moments. Unfortunately, what I had to drop that night was studying for my big test. I didn't get a wink of sleep. I knew the whole night I should be studying, but I just didn't. I did decide the next morning to go to class. So as I was walking up to the 3rd floor of Olin, I already felt my palms sweating and my head was pounding and my tears were just already welling in my eyes. So I just went real quick into the room and I didn't talk to anybody, which, if you know me, that's not really normal. So I sat down in my seat, all my classmates were coming in, and finally I decided that there was no way I was going to be able to focus. I was not going to be able to take the test that day. So I got up, walked to the front of the room, and I talked to my professor, Karen Peterson. I briefly explained to her what had happened the night before. She saw the tears in my eyes, and without batting an eye, she said I didn't need to take the test that day, to go home and get some rest. In that moment, everything I knew about Augustana was solidified, that the people here care. I'm going to be telling you a few stories today, and this was just one of them. So I hope that as I talk, you reflect on your own Augustana experience and think about the people who shaped you into who you are today. Now, this is actually where my Augustana story begins. Yikes. I was an 18-year-old from Aledo, Illinois, and not unlike many move-in days, it was very hot that August day of 2000. Just to give you a little bit of background on me, I was an extremely active high school student. I'd graduated near the top of my class. I was a 3-sport athlete, musician, student council president. I had every reason to be a confident college freshman, but I just wasn't. I was terrified. I was scared that I wasn't going to make any friends. I was scared I wasn't academically prepared. I just felt like I was going to fall through the cracks. There are 3 people who influenced me the most as a student here and played a big part in shaping who I am today. They taught me that learning in college doesn't just happen in the classroom, and they showed me that the people here cared too much to let me fall through the cracks. The first person I'm going to talk about is Don Umland. Don was the director of campus recreation, and he hired me as a freshman as a desk assistant at PepsiCo and also as a member of the intramural staff. As a sophomore, Don promoted me to be one of the co-directors of the entire intramural program. And that felt like a lot of pressure, but Don was really the first person at Augustana who saw something in me. His confidence in me really put a confidence in myself. And looking back on that experience at PepsiCo, it wasn't just a campus job. It really was where I learned to be a confident leader, to step outside my comfort zone. The next person is Ken Brill. Ken is the director of student life and leadership. And I met Ken when I was a junior as a special events chair with the Office of Student Life. And my co-chair and I, we were in charge of big things on campus. So like musicians and magicians and mentalists. And what I like to say is really our biggest legacy, which was starting bingo our senior year. And it's still around 10 years later. But anyway, much like Don, Ken really trusted my co-chair and me. We were just students, and here we were talking to agencies about their performers, negotiating budgets, working on contracts, big stuff. And I can only imagine what my pre-event frantic conversation sounded like with Ken, like 19-year-old Karen. I can only imagine, especially knowing how nervous I still get before big events. But Ken was always there to listen, to provide advice, and give encouragement. And ultimately, he taught me to trust my instincts. The final person is Karen Peterson, who I mentioned before. And Karen was one of my marketing professors, but she also coordinated business internships at the time, and set me up with both of my internships, and also selected me to chair business day as a senior. Now, I'm going to make them show you one more photo of me from college just to prove that I did recover from that really hot day in Westerland, though I wore a very interesting denim shirt, khaki pant combo that day. Anyway, I was so honored that Karen picked me to chair business day and interact with over 100 local companies to coordinate job shadows. And Karen really was one who helped me bridge from student to professional. I was always asking for her advice and just couldn't believe how connected she was in the Quad City community. And as a wife, as a mother, as a professional, Karen was really a female role model who was someone who I aspired to be like. Now I know I'm just one person. I know that nearly every Augustana alum has their own Ken, Don, or Karen. You might even have Ken, Don, or Karen. They're very familiar faces. You have someone at Augustana who recognized your leadership potential, who told you about an internship opportunity, who let you make mistakes, who listened to your problems, who gave you advice. You have someone who told you you could do something even when you thought you couldn't. There's someone at Augustana who changed your life. What's really awesome about my job now is I get to see a whole new generation of Augustana students living the experience on campus. Even though there's no longer Carlson Hall or a cafeteria in Westerland or Java 101, there are still people who care. The thing of it is, though, caring in today's world can only go so far. Today's world is so much more complex and competitive than the one that I entered even 10 years ago. So through our new strategic plan, Augustana, we're offering more intensive and intrusive academic advising, more opportunities for study abroad and hands-on research than ever before. We've tripled the size of our career development staff. We're doing everything that we can to ensure that our students don't fall through the cracks. We're still providing that same personal attention, but it's ultimately personal attention that can be directly tied to our students' future success. So that's why faculty, staff, and even alumni, we're now all being challenged to help our students know that learning can happen anywhere and not just in our classrooms. Like me, our students today are finding that their involvement in campus clubs and organizations, their internships, their study abroad, those are all providing the perfect addition to what they're learning inside the classroom. My guess is that many of you might have learned the most about yourself during a term abroad, or maybe as a member of the basketball team, or when you played trumpet in the symphonic band. These are the things that set Augustana graduates apart from graduates at other colleges. There's a lot of days when I'm talking to prospective students now and telling them stories about our current students that Ken, Don, and Karen cross my mind. I think about the confidence that was instilled in me by Don. I think about trusting my instincts, just like Ken said. And I always strive to be the best wife, mother, and professional that I can be, just like Karen modeled. So even though things have changed on campus, and I've aged just a tad, so many of the same themes are still present. And that's what really makes me proud to be a Viking. Thank you very much for having me today.